Hello, everyone. Welcome to a sunny day here in Los Angeles. Hope weather is not affecting anybody out here, but we are really excited today. We've got Ted Denbow on, Senior Vice President of Business Development and Sales. Did I get that right, Ted? Yeah. From Right Capital, which is one of our trusted software partners that we work not only at Arrow Family Office, but we work with a lot of our partner accounting firms to integrate their solutions into their more advisory model. And we've seen it be very powerful, not just for us, for our clients, but also those accounting firms that have joined with us. So today we're really, I'm not going to talk a whole lot. Today is for Ted. And Ted is going to highlight really some of the wonderful features and the use cases that a lot of folks have found to be very beneficial for them today. So without further ado, Ted, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rob. And we're really excited to partake in your events anytime that we can. So again, appreciate the opportunity and great to connect with all of you on the webinar here today. Again, my name is Ted Denbow. I'm with Right Capital. We're one of the leading financial planning solutions on the market today, and we work with a very broad base of what we like to call financial professionals, which incorporates not just advisors, but accounting firms, CPAs, and a broad range of professionals to help their clients see what their futures entail, so to speak. And we'll take time, as Rob said, go through a couple of use cases, go through a detailed scenario of how they engage their clients and how that helps them bring more opportunities and more value to that broad client base. We'll start with just a little bit of background on the company. We are a newer player in the marketplace where you may have heard of solutions like eMoney or MoneyGuide Pro or NaviPlan and some of the others. And what we tried to do when we launched our product back in 2015 is bring a modern solution that could take very complex scenarios and make them easier to develop and easier for end clients to digest. We built our platform with the end client in mind, but with you, the professional, at the heart of it. So you could build a plan, an engagement, an interaction for your clients that will meet their specific needs, help them see future opportunities that you might be bringing to them, and give you a highly interactive solution throughout that client's life cycle. So that's what we're going to spend a good amount of time talking about today is, how do you interact? How do you engage? What are some of the different ways and opportunities to work with clients utilizing a solution like ours out there in the marketplace? So with that being said, I'm going to pull up my screen here and we'll jump right into the solution. So again, our platform is web-based, so that makes it easy. You can access it anywhere, anytime, from your laptop, your desktop. We even have an end client mobile app. We know these days, if it's not on your phone, it's not happening in most cases. So we took that to heart and we launched a solution where clients can access it, through their iPhones, their Android devices, and so on. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the program here today. When you jump right into the platform, it gives you a broad range of capabilities. We're not going to go through all of them here today. I want to focus on some things that we see most commonly utilized with the different accounting firms that we work with and other partners like Rob and their firm and how they typically engage. So just to set the lay of the land, again, it's built for professionals. So we don't offer our solution direct to the consumer. It's meant to be utilized like folks like yourselves so you can provide them with great information, great details, and show them different opportunities throughout their lifespan across many different areas. So that being said, we're going to dive right in and walk through a couple different scenarios. First and foremost, our solution is built to support a broad demographic of clients, right? And I imagine many of you work with different types of clients. A lot of planning solutions out on the market today, we're very focused on retirement and retirement income, which is great. And we have a lot of tools there, but we also have a lot of folks that work with clients that are, let's say, in their earlier years where maybe it's more around debt management, budgeting. They want to buy their first home. Maybe they're looking at other opportunities that aren't quite yet settled into retirement. Of course, we have all those capabilities, but we want to give you solutions that you can meet those specific needs of a very broad range, helps you support a bigger demographic clients obviously more opportunity for you and your firms. So that being said, not all clients like to engage the same way. So we give it multiple options. When you're first starting with our solution, you can actually send it over to the clients and let them start the process. Let them go in and enter the information that they feel comfortable with, information pertinent to the discussions you're having with them, really whatever is relevant at that point in time. So that's a nice feature, a digital onboarding, as we like to call it. You can also set that up so clients can do that on their own anytime, because we give you the ability to embed these features into your web presence, your social presence. And that's a big way that folks will start to market maybe to different niche sets of clients. You know, if you're working with a lot of folks that, again, are maybe younger, need certain needs, you can actually set a link out there and let them start this whole process on their own. So let me share a little bit of what that's like, because it's the same for you as it would be for any clients that you're sending out there. We have a simple 6-step approach to gathering their information. I'm going to touch on each area just to give you a sense of the capabilities, but we can go very shallow or very deep. That's, again, the flexibility you'll see throughout our platform. So they don't have to answer everything. They only have to put in 1 or 2 things to get things started. And the same thing goes for you. If you're just looking at, can they buy a house in 5 years, and we want to look at, okay, they've got X amount saved, they're looking to spend X amount at that time and finance a certain amount, you can actually just plug those details in and look at, are they going to make it or are they not? Do they need to save more or are they good? So again, that's a nice theme, a nice option that we provide within our solution to give you that flexibility. Again, that's a theme you'll see throughout. All right, so let's just talk briefly about the different input fields. The first is around the basic family profiles, you know, the husband, the wife, the kids, the grandkids, the spouses, whoever the household members are, right? You can add any of those folks in. The second is around stuff that I'm sure you're all very well in detail with a lot of your clients, right? They're different income streams. You know, are they salaried? Are they currently working? Any social security details? But we can accommodate all different types of income sources. And that's, again, the theme you'll see throughout. If you need to go deep and really drill down into it, you can, you know, whether it's self-employment income, pensions, maybe, you know, royalty payments, inheritance, and so on. You could customize any type of income stream throughout our platform as needed. Around savings, if that's something you want to look at, right? What are they taking as contributions or contributing to their different accounts, right? Whether that's a 401k, which is pretty common, to all different types of vehicles, you know, 403bs, Roths, IRAs, HSAs, 529s, even deferred comp plans. You know, if you're working with folks, maybe executives at a larger entity, stock option plans, and so on. You'll see as I dig in deeper. As you can probably guess, we go very deep on taxes. That's why a lot of folks in the accounting space, accounting firms, really like our platform. So we can accommodate a lot of different modeling, a lot of different scenarios, whether it's savings, it's growth, and so on. The fourth step is around just their assets and liabilities, right? What's nice here is the clients can link up all their different outside accounts. So you don't have to necessarily deal with plugging it in. This is really the best solution if you can get them to do it. They can come in here and link up their investment accounts, their banking accounts, their credit cards, and so on. And it'll pull in all that information and map it in accordingly. So then again, you don't have to worry about, did I key it in right? Did I set up the right account types? Did I set up the right positions? All that I'll pull over through our aggregation capabilities. Again, the client links that information in. And to make it easy, they could do it with you, like I'm going through the screens here. You could send them a link, like I talked about earlier. And they could do it at home, on their laptops, on their desktops, what have you. And of course, one of the most popular, on their smartphones, right through the app. So obviously, that's the preferred way to get that information in. The other benefit that does is it'll update that detail on a regular basis. So that way, as you're looking at their plan, you're looking at the things that they're trying to see, can they achieve them? It'll stay current with values, transaction details, and so on that I'll highlight when we go through a sample plan. If you need to manually add anything in, of course you can do that. The clients can do that. You can manually plug in all that same information, bank accounts, credit cards, you know, investment details, any property, any loans that they have. Again, we can model a lot of different types of loans and different property holdings, which I'm sure many of your clients have pretty broad range of items. We can even accommodate, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a sample plan, student loans. We have a unique module, one of the few planning solutions that actually lets you look at opportunities in that space. And then for any clients that have insurance policies, we can accommodate a broad range of those. And then also, any business owners or other assets you can key in there. So if they have an LLC, a C Corp, an S Corp, or what have you, we can account for all that in our platform and treat it correctly. Last two sections, pretty straightforward. Expenses, pre-retirement, common theme is they just plug in, what do they spend on average? $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. We do allow you to customize that, and you could do a detailed item sheet if you wanted to. You could add in all types of detailed expenses if you really wanted to get into it. For example, if you had HSA accounts, you could set up if they have no medical expenses, and it'll auto pay those based on the values in the HSA account and show that growing and covering those expenses. So again, that's just an example of how you can really simulate some more complicated scenarios. And then again, a big draw to our platform is our tax module. So we auto calculate federal, state, and FICA taxes based on all the details that you're adding in there. So certainly more information is going to provide a more detailed output. The only brackets that you would ever have to enter manually is if they had a local income tax, like New York City and other locations. But we'll automatically apply all the state and federal stuff for you. So that's, again, a nice feature, and you'll see how that really comes into play when we're going through it. If you do need to customize things, we have features to do that. And certainly our team, if you wanted to get deeper into the weeds, so to speak, can walk you through how you can customize, show increasing brackets, and even use some stuff for folks that maybe have foreign property. We launched some new features that allow you to accommodate that. And then lastly, what are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? Whether it's retirement related or lifestyle related. When do they want to retire? What do they think they're going to spend in retirement? Again, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this as we, on the investment side, I've been talking about this for 2 decades, right? One of your biggest expenses in retirement is healthcare. We all know that. So we have a feature where you have some defaults in here, but we also can estimate their Medicare premiums. Again, based on the detail you put in there, we can do rough estimates, and you'll see, especially when you're looking at things like Roth conversions and other tools, we can see, will that affect things all the way down to their Medicare premiums? It might bump it depending on what bracket they're going to get pushed into. So I won't go through them all, but we have a wealth of different features, college planning, where you can even look up schools and universities, car spending, vacations, weddings, property, a relocation, common thing that a lot of folks look at in retirement. Maybe they're moving to another state, another location. Well, we can simulate the effect of the change in state income taxes based on that move within our platform, again, because we do all that calculation for you, and a wealth of other things. So hopefully you get a good sense. You can go really deep in all kinds of type of complex scenarios, or you keep it as simple as you want and look at just a few basics and always iterate from there. So that's a little bit about the input process. When you think about planning in general, that's usually the most time-consuming part of the financial planning process. And that's one thing that we're known for, and hopefully you got a sense of it. We really strip that down and make it easier for folks. When you get used to the outline that I just mapped out for you, you get the clients involved, which many folks do, especially over the last 2 years. I think there isn't a person on earth that doesn't know how to use Zoom today. So they've become more technologically adept over the last couple of years, which is great if you're starting to roll out more tools like ours and others to engage those clients. So let's look at a sample plan and go through a scenario here. So we're going to open up the Joneses. Like I said, this is a common client type, let's say in their mid to later 40s, a little bit of assets. They got a kid, typical planning needs and items. And one thing we just rolled out today actually is what we call this new snapshot page. So this lets you pick and choose different areas. And I'm going to go through all these in individual components, but you can pick and choose different areas that are relevant to that client and make it their dashboard. What are the most important things to them? Maybe it's just a quick look at their net worth. Maybe it's looking at their savings. You can actually add all different types of items in here to have that customized experience, and you can print any of these sections. I'll talk a little bit about reporting later. And what's also nice is if you need to add stuff and you want to add more detail, we had the ability so you can just put in text boxes around specific items. So if you want to give more color, just call out anything specific to that client, you have that flexibility. So this is something that a lot of folks were really excited, and we've just launched this to give you that condensed summary snapshot view. Show them what matters, right? That's the big thing. And then you got all the supporting details, and we're going to talk a lot about these areas behind it. So let's dig in a little deeper. One of the pages in here that's used across the board, I don't think there's one client scenario that they don't have this page provided to them. It's just a standard balance sheet. And because it's a common thing that everybody wants to see, right? What are my assets? What are my liabilities? How does that break down? What does that look like? So we bucket everything across the tiers, right? Cash, investments, real estate, other assets, and all their different liabilities, and give them that summary. And it'll even split it out, by the different household members, as well as any trust assets that they may have in there, and give them the ability to see those quickly and easily. Coming back to the earlier point, if the client's linked any accounts, all these values will update on a regular basis. So again, that's a nice quick way for them to see that information. And as you saw in that snapshot, you can also track it ongoing. So they can see, since we last met, maybe hopefully their net worth has gone up, they're going in the right direction. Hopefully their liabilities are going down in the right direction, or whatever it might be. You get to track that from the inception of the plan. So that's why, and I'm sure you can see, this is one of the most common things that folks provide to their own clients. It gives them a little ability to slice and dice it too by time period. So if they just want to look at it for the last month or so, they can always come in here and chop it around. The other thing to keep in mind, everything I'm showing you here, you can give your clients access to. So not only can you use this to provide a plan and have a great engagement with that client, this is what you can give them the ability to see and interact with on their own. And that's where the big value is, right? You can give them that experience, that exposure, so they can look at, are they on track? Are they going in the right direction with their plan, regardless of what's happening, in the markets in the world today, because there's a lot of stuff going on, as we all know. Another area, I'm going to go through the few other areas you'll see in our dashboard. These are the ones that are commonly used by, let's say, younger folks, right? So we do have a budgeting tool. It's not going to be a lot different than like a mint.com type experience, because it lets them, if they link their credit cards, their checking accounts, it's going to pull in those different transactions and map them across the different categories. And then they can look at it over varying periods of time and see where are they under, over, what are the cumulative spends across those. They can slice and dice across all the different categories to see specifically where they are, maybe spending more or less. And what's neat about that is you can even go further. The clients and or you, right? It's up to you how involved you want to be in that section. They can split transactions. You can put in manual transactions. You can create custom categories and map those specific transactions to them, and it'll learn and remember those going forward. So again, if you really want to drill down into it, and it's not uncommon with, let's say, younger folks, we use the term we hear a lot is the Henrys, right? The high earners, not rich yet, which you may have heard, and they're great clients because they've got a lot of future potential, but they have a little bit of a spending problem every now and again. So this can really help with that, right? It's one thing for someone to go and they look at their credit card statement versus to see it all compiled together, really show them where maybe they need to cut back or manage a little deeper or in more control, so to speak.
And the client also has access to not give you access to that. And so we've seen that really be valuable as well. Some people don't want you to see what they're all spending, but it's still a valuable tool for them to be able to use. And so some people will keep that private. Vast majority ends up wanting to share that to say, what do you guys think about this budget? Really nice flexibility.
Absolutely. This day privacy is top of the list, right? You see it across all your different interactions, whether it be digital or not. So you do have that control. The client actually, like Rob said, they have that control. If they want to share it with you, they can. If they don't, or just want to use it on their own, they can do that too. And that's that flexible interaction. You can control that experience, and the client has say in what's in there and what's not. So a great point. A couple other quick things, tied a lot to budgeting is debt management. So it's a simple tool, but it's very effective. You can look at their various debt accounts. You can apply different approaches. Some of the, standard things you may have heard of, like the highest to lowest rates, lowest to highest balances, maybe just adding additional dollars per month. Maybe you want to simulate refining some of the different loans. So you can layer on that across any of their different and we'll calculate what that approach might save, how much soon paid off, what do those new payments look like, and then even, the underlying details of that. So you can really drill down and show different approaches. What might be too much? Maybe it's too big of a hurdle to jump in right away. Maybe you want to ease into it, but it can be a great tool to help them, find a path to reducing that debt ideally sooner. It comes back to, some of those scenarios I talked about earlier. When you're dealing with younger folks, trying to buy property, especially with, values going through the roof today and rates are probably going up pretty quickly. They might want to look at, well, what's a good way to lower some of their debt faster, get that down so they can get into those first home purchases sooner. Obviously that might be better in some cases. So that's a great tool. And again, all these things I'm showing you here can be used combined or individually. You get to choose. If debt's not important to them because they're good in that area, you don't have to turn any of that on. To Rob's point, if they don't want to turn on budgeting or just not interested in using that, you don't have to turn any of those features on. So that's one of the great things is you can completely customize that experience and then evolve it too. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So one other area, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, student loan debt, right? We all know the numbers. There's trillions of dollars worth of student loan debt out there. It's not going away anytime soon. It probably affects, everyone in some capacity, whether it's them or their kids or their grandkids or their nieces or their nephews. Inevitably, it's probably a discussion that will come up at some point in time. So we built a tool that looks at some of the standard federal programs, right? And then start there, see what opportunity might exist. And essentially they could come in and they can link their loans, or you or they can manually plug them in. And then by answering a few questions around the timing of those loans, are they staying in the public or private sector? Some of the different approaches for payment schedules you want to look at, or do you want to just look at a regular refinance? And by answering those, we'll calculate what that new approach might save, how much, if any, of that balance would be forgiven. And then some of the plans have an interest benefit and how that's captured. So you can see right away, there's maybe a possible positive effect. And then you could drill down, look at the strategy that's being used. In this case, Jane's a teacher, so this is using some of the public service loan forgiveness program. And then it'll drill down even further into their underlying payment. So you can really look at, when does that really kick in? How far out until that forgiveness kicks in? What's the payment schedule going to look like? Again, it can be used on its own. And that's where we see actually a lot of folks, because maybe you have folks that are maybe closer to retirement or in retirement as your clients. Odds are they probably don't have much of any student loan debt. But again, it's the kids, the nieces, the nephews, the grandkids. And if they do bring that discussion up with their name and email address, you could send this link by itself to that extended family member. And that's a great way to start building relationships with the broader family. If you could show them some opportunity, whether they take action on it or not, you're showing some value that you might be able to help them in future opportunities to work together. And then one last area in here to mention quickly, these are tasks. So these are alerts. And that's the other nice thing is you can set reminders for those clients. You can set a date that you want something to be completed by, who within the plan. So it's not just the primary plan members. If there's other household members in there, or even yourself that you want to set a reminder for, you can select that. And then what it is you want to notify them of. And then that will send them emails up to the due date, along with pop-up notifications if they're using the app. So that way, if it's something coming up, whether it's related to tax filing or anything at all, honestly, don't forget to call your mom. It's her birthday today. You could even send that out there and set that reminder. And those are great because it's just another way to tie them back in, draw them into action items most likely that tie to the plan, things you want to keep them abreast of, things that you need them to complete. So let's talk about a couple other areas in our tool, and then we're gonna circle back to retirement. Like I said, we have college funding tools. That's a common theme, especially with, let's say, younger folks, or even if it's the parents for the grandkids, you could set it up in there if they're funding maybe a 529, which is a pretty common scenario. It'll look at any assets that are already set up that you've linked to that plan. Like I said, if you already know where they're going, you just select the school, it'll pull in the current tuition costs. If you're looking at, other sources, maybe they're going to fund it outside of the 529, you could loop that in. Maybe they got some student loans or scholarships, you could account for all that. And this will just simply help you determine how much more do they need to save to hit whatever coverage target that is that they want to achieve. Whether that's 50, 75, 85, 100, you can dial it up, dial it down, just adjust the sliders, and it'll keep updating that college goal there to see, okay, well, by bumping it up to 18.5, we're at over 90% coverage of the total cost, and it's including that future cost. There's inflation rates that are factored in. Then you could always adjust those if you needed to. And then we give you the breakdown of what that looks like in a little bit of a cash flow summary. And of course, multiple children, grandchildren, you can have a tab for each and look at the cumulative summary there. Let's talk a little bit about taxes. Obviously, that's near and dear to all of your hearts and ours as well. This is one of the things, like I mentioned, that we're very well known for. We do projections and distribution analysis. So on the first screen, we give you an estimate. So this is what I was talking about earlier. We're going to auto calc federal, state, and FICA. You can see their effective rates over the horizon of their plan based on all the information there. We give you some additional views. So if you want to just isolate it to just federal income taxes or cap gains, because obviously those have been a hot topic about possible changes, maybe coming down the pipe depending on where they are. And then what we do that a lot of folks really love is we actually do a projection and populate their 1040s and a lot of the subschedules. So if they have a scenario that's going to be a taxable event or possibly generate a taxable event, you can look forward into the future and see what that might look like. Something as simple as, let's assume the sunset still happens, right, in a few years with the TCJA rules that went into play. Well, you could jump ahead and show what that could look like. Maybe they're going to look at liquidating a bunch of stock options in 1 year. We say, okay, you could do that, but just know maybe that's going to bump them into AMT for the first time, right? And show them the net positive maybe to the plan, but the big tax bill they might be generating by taking that action. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to drill down into the subschedules, different views, and again, for any year. So if it's something they're thinking about, it's a great way to be able to visualize it, forms that you all know near and dear, and also the clients likely have some familiarity with, and give them a visual that they can see specifically what that scenario looks like. This is a huge one. This is used day in and day out, particularly for firms that are more, obviously like yours, accounting focused, whether they're advisory or not. This is used almost every single day. And it's not just on that projection scenario. They also use it to highlight some of the opportunity in distributions. So in here, we look at a couple different things. So first, this is looking at their ordinary income tax brackets, right? How they hit those over their lifetime based on that taxable income. And by default, it assumes that they take a pro rata approach to distributions. Also meaning it's like they're drawn down evenly across their accounts, right? So you can change the timing of those. What you can also look at is Roth conversions. Would this be a sensible thing? And in many cases, if you're not on the advisor side, their advisor might be saying, hey, talk to your accounting firm. We need to do Roth conversions. We want to look at what this looks like. Now you can actually simulate it and see what that looks like from your side as well. So in here, you would simply just set the bracket, which is great. You can just say, I want to fill in anytime they're below the 1215, right? Because we're assuming the 26 cutoff, right? Bracket, and we want to fill up to with Roth conversions. So we can say, okay, well, if they did that with a pro rata approach, not really a positive thing, right? In that case, it did make sense. But what if we looked at maybe timing some of the distributions across just the tax buckets? So not talking about investments at all, just when and how much to draw down out of those buckets. We have some standard approaches, some custom ones. Let's say we looked at taxable, tax-free, and tax-deferred. We can see by layering that on with those Roth conversions, now we might be able to save that client comparatively over $260,000 across their lifespan. And we know it's not just the savings. We go further and actually give you all the details. So this highlights those specific conversion amounts in those years and how much and when it's drawing down the assets across the different tax buckets. And in this case, obviously they're getting and building up more tax-free income for later in life, which in many scenarios might be a very positive thing. In a similar fashion, going back to what I mentioned earlier, we don't just show you the details of the withdrawals and the conversions. You can look at the specific tax details for each year, but coming back to Medicare, right? Is that going to bump my premiums? Well, they can actually go down and see that when it kicks in, what it looks like per client, and then you can look at the total cost of that over that time. So maybe it has no effect, maybe it does. Maybe you want to lower that tier or have them, reach back out to the advisor if you're not working them with on the advisory side, say, hey, this is a concern, here's why I'm concerned about it. And you can actually share and show that with that end advisor, because you can print these pages, and I'll talk about the reports in a few moments. So again, a ton of different ways you can use it. Those are just a few examples we see day in and day out. One last thing, and then we'll get to the retirement analysis, because that's really the heart of the program. Estate planning, obviously there's a lot of different things in here. We do some basic stuff and more complex stuff. First is just, do they have the key documents? Do they have a will? Do they have a living will? I'm sure these are conversations that come up all the time with clients. Another one that is near and dear from my perspective, I remember for years and years, people just don't do beneficiary reviews as often as they should. And we all know what happens if there's a change and they don't update the bennies. What wins? The beneficiary. For those of you who know Ed Slott, I traveled with him for years, and they would tell those stories that just make you cringe. So this is simple, right? It's such a simple thing, and it's something you can put out for the clients. They come in here, list out the accounts, select who the Benny is, who's the contingent, and just have it there. So once a year or just at any time, they can look at it and say, maybe we should make a change, or something's changing within my family, within our household, so I need to make a change. So it just makes it easy to keep it in front of them. And then we have the whole detailed analysis. So if you do get into any estate planning discussions, we have a tool that will help you with that, even at a high level, or if you really want to get into it. We show what's in the estate, out of the estate, how it may pass on. You can model some common things like, gifting approaches, different timing and horizons. If you want to get into or having discussions around trust strategies, we have quite a few. So you can look at more complex scenarios, from CRTs to ILETs to SLATs to GRATs, IDGITs, all the acronyms that I probably don't know what they all mean, but I know how to say the acronyms. So most people will get it from there. But again, you can do some pretty comprehensive estate planning if that's needed. And it all circles back to our retirement analysis. Again, not all the plans are about retirement, but in here, this is all of our detailed reviews. This is our Monte Carlo simulations. This is our cash flow analysis, our stress tests, Social Security. At the end of the day, their probability of success, how likely are they to achieve their goals, complete their plan, and not run out of money, right? That's most folks' big concern as they get closer to retirement, right? Once you get over 50, that's like your number one thing. I do not want to run out of money. I'm not moving into my kid's basement in the later years. That's their big concern. So this really helps lay that out. And it's looking at all those factors. So here's where you can really go crazy with different scenarios. If you really want to get into different analysis, you can, or you can keep it really simple. The current plan is just, where are they today? So they've given you all this information, they plugged in their numbers. What's the likelihood of that happening, right? And a lot of people have bigger aspirations maybe than they realize. That's like Joe and Jane here, right? Their plan's not looking good. And then the proposed plan will match that to start. And that's where you could come in and start making suggestions or look at different items. And it's not all investment driven, right? A lot of it actually has to do with completely non-investment related items that can have significant impacts, whether it's when they actually retire. That's one of the biggest things. Okay, they're thinking of 64, maybe it really needs to be 65. Well, again, in our platform, you can make one quick change, hit refresh, and it completely updates that scenario. So we can see here with Joe, if he just worked 1 year more in that scenario, he's up to almost 80% now in that proposed plan. You can get into detailed strategies. We have Social Security tools where you can look at standard approaches, custom ones. We even have an optimizer where you can layer in and say, okay, well, if they take the best approach to generate the most income, in this case, it's deferring them, right? Now we're up into the 80s. And again, a lot of it could be around savings. It could be around different income vehicles, expenses, obviously what they think they're going to spend and what they actually spend can be significant impacts. You could be looking at a move, like I said, and see the impact of that. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility to layer out very complicated scenarios. And hopefully what you can see here, an easy, simple tool to interact. And the most important part is it lets you do it right on the fly. You saw how fast I made those two changes, how quickly it updated. That lets you address the what ifs that always come up when talking with a client. Well, what if we do this, but we don't do that? If Joe says, oh, this is great, I can't work that extra year. What if we do everything but that? You can simply roll it back, refresh it, say, okay, Joe, well, if you work there, we're going to be right about 80%. We're getting there. Maybe we make a few other little changes. So it goes much deeper than that if you want to, all the way down to retirement. looking at, are there any shortfalls based on that plan? Where's their money coming from? They have a pension, we've got Social Security, some other retirement account withdrawals. Right now it looks like they're in a good shape. They're not looking to run out of money, but you could again look at different approaches, layer in different strategies for distribution, like I highlighted before, and help build that out even further. Another one that's getting used a lot right now because of everything that's going on are the stress tests. And these are common things, right? These are the standard questions that clients always have. They're a little more prevalent right now because of the market, right? With inflation and volatility. This lets you simulate, well, what if there's a big decline in the markets? What if inflation keeps going up? What if they do reduce Social Security and so on? You can play around with those different facets and it'll automatically recalculate those probabilities. So we can see, in this case, I'm simulating if there was a 30% drop in the equity markets this year, what would that do? It's going to have an effect on their plan, right? And obviously, most people it would, but it's not going to blow it up completely. They're going to be just under 70%. Certainly, probably things maybe they want to look at, but then you can say, look, maybe if you have a big concern there, if you're not working with them on investments, now you got a great tool to say, you should probably talk to your advisor about this and maybe look at your equity exposure. Maybe that's a conversation you want to have. If you're on the advisory side, this leads into a great conversation to talk with that client. So hopefully you can see, even if you're not focused on that, and that's not an area that you spend a lot of time in, or it's not a key aspect of your firm, it gives you great information to share with that client and then help them, have those conversations with their advisor if they're not already. A few other quick things, Social Security. Like I said, we have our optimizer. So this lets you provide helpful talking points with that client, because it's going to look at if they waited till 70 instead of turning on at 65, like they were thinking, they're going to get 400,000 more out of Social Security. And it even shows where that break-even point is, so they can make intelligent decisions. They don't have to live to 90. Looks like right around 80, 81, they're going to be in the money, if you will, with that new approach. So if they have that ability to defer, that could be a great opportunity for them. And again, whether you have these conversations with your client or not, there's so much good talking points that you can take out of this. And if that's to refer them to someone else, you're helping them that much more. And then if you really want to dive into the numbers, which we know a lot of us do, we provide it all to you here. And that's what the cash flow projections do. This lets you look into line by line, year by year, all the details behind our projections. So you can see inflows, outflows, and net flows, all the underlying tax payment details. So if you want to say, how is Right Capital calculating this? What do they take into account? You can actually click on any of these headers and it'll break it down for you. So there's federal, state, FICA. You click on it individually, and then it's showing you all the underlying details. So you can see, hopefully, again, not just in the nice forms in the 1040s we project, but you can see all the year by year, line by line details, not just for taxes, but for any aspect, whether it's income, their expenses. What I mentioned before, if we were looking at it and the expenses seem high for a particular year, like say, oh, what's that other expense? Oh, that's right. I'm exercising a bunch of stock options, or they're exercising a bunch of stock options, and that's the cost of it. So hopefully you got a good sense of how much detail we can provide in that plan. And then, like I said, the end result, you could give them online access, or you could generate a report, or both. In many cases, our folks do both in there. So we do have a few things to help with that. One, we have a vault, so a document vault where you can upload those reports to, or any other files. So what's nice here is if you're using our online experience as their main point of entry, you could upload their planning report, but you can also upload any other documents. So our vault is secure, following all the standard security protocols that you find out there with any other document vaults. And then our reports, you customize them, and you can even create standardized templates. So if you have a standard report you use with every client, you can preset those, but you can pick them. You say, I just want that snapshot, like that one pager. Or maybe this is the first time, so I want to give them a lot of detail. I want to show the balance sheet. I want to show the retirement analysis. I only want certain pages out of maybe I just want the summary out of the cash flows. I want those distribution pages. Again, you check the boxes. And then if you want to reorder it, we even make that easier. You can say, okay, well, you know what? I want the tax information in front of that retirement analysis. You just drag and drop, and now I've created a custom report. It was that simple. Click download, and it'll create a PDF that looks and feels just like it is online. Our big goal with our planning experience, we want continuity. So anything you show them, anything they see on their own, anything you provide in a report is going to look and feel just like it did online. So that way there's no, well, I've never seen this chart before. This looks different to what you were showing me. It's all the same. We like to say that the plan is the plan here at Right Capital. So hopefully you get a good sense of that. I won't scroll through all the pages there. And then one other key thing to note is everything can be white labeled or custom branded. So anywhere you see Right Capital on the report and on our platform, you could upload your images so it looks and feels like your site. You can even change the primary and secondary colors. So that way, again, it has your firm's brand. It looks like it's your platform. They really won't see much of anything to do with Right Capital in that aspect. So that way it's part of your firm branding experience. And then last but not least, just a couple other quick items. Obviously, that's a lot of stuff. You can use in a lot of different ways. You can iterate, you can go simple, you can go very deep. We have loads of help to keep you up and running and get you up and running. Everything from the DIY stuff that you'd expect. We have loads of tutorials, videos, constant training materials. We have support that comes to you in access of 3 different channels that you'd expect, right? We have email, we have phone support. You can always call us and talk to us. Most people like our chat. You can fire off a question, they respond right away. And the best part about it is it stores your chat history. So basically you get to create your own personal FAQ. Any of the common things you ask through there, if you go, how do I do a Roth conversion? And then 3 weeks go by and you go, how did I do that Roth conversion? You can just click on your chat and the answers will be right there. And like I said, you can always call us. And then for folks, when they first get started, we know, especially if it's a newer thing, if you're not a customer, haven't been doing planning, we provide a lot of white glove service. We have an onboarding team where we assign either to you or your firm, depending on how folks are engaged, that help you get up and running, help you with any custom branding questions you have to set that up, help you with any kind of firm settings that you want to adjust, integrations where if you use certain CRM tools like a Redtail or a Wealthbox, we can actually connect in. If you're on the advisory side, we can connect to custodial access and other access points too, and just really help you get up and running with your first couple of plans. That's our goal. They work with you for the first month or 2 to help you get up and running, and then you have access to our support team ongoing. And then beyond that, Rob and their team there, they do great training tutorials, but we also host weekly sessions on best practices, tips and tricks, and a lot of education around planning concepts and planning themes. Because we're not only trying to provide new technology to help you with planning, but also new approaches to planning. Whether that's from how do I manage clients, what are some different strategies to help my clients with, to all the way down, how do I charge them fees for planning access? And we even get into that and show folks what they can do there. So hopefully you got a good sense of the capabilities, not just from Right Capital's perspective, but the things that you can do with your clients out there. There's lots of opportunity to engage with them. You don't need to have a CFP to use a tool like this. I mean, it's great if you do. There's nothing knocking that by any means, but you can start small and evolve. And that's what we see a lot of our firms doing, specifically if they're not on the investment side. This gives them an opportunity to go in with a topic that they're already an expert in around taxes. Start there. And we see many folks, they'll start with that tax conversation and say, well, let's look at your net worth. Let's look at some basics. What do you want to do? What are your goals and desires? And then you start evolving it from there. And it makes a great way to expand your services to the clients, but also build a stronger relationship. The more you can engage with them, the more you can help with them, the longer they're going to be a client. And that's something we want to help everybody do, particularly across your space. So I know I've been talking for about 40 minutes straight, almost there, Rob, but I want to take a pause. Any other questions or comments I can dive into at this point?
No, just to add a little context from our experience with working with accounting firms, there are business management, CPA advisory firms that do a lot of this work still with the back end of Excel spreadsheets and a dedicated team doing these calculations, and they charge a really high premium for that, which generally means that they're just doing it for very, very large clients. And, this transition from compliance work to advisory, which is a huge topic, and everybody's been talking about it in accounting forever. Right Capital, we've seen this be an excellent gateway into advisory. And, you went through all of these other capabilities. Frankly, a lot of the accounting firms that have started to utilize this have used it for, one, helping with onboarding. getting a clearer picture. To that budgeting tool, it's, a lot of clients say, frankly, I don't know how much I'm spending on X, Y, or Z, and I'd really like to know. And a lot of accounts have either said, well, we could get you a bookkeeper, one of our bookkeepers, or you could go to Mint, but then we don't have access to see any of that or give you any of that. But one of the larger things that we love, and our accounting firms absolutely love, is that if you onboard a client correctly, and you can send it to them and say, do the best you can, and then we can hop on and we can fill in some of the gaps together. And we see that being very useful, is that it does update in real time after the client has done that. So for a lot of accounting firms that meet with their clients once a year or twice a year, that plan is, if they're connected everything correctly, might just need a little tweaks about, oh, your income was up this year, you paid off this debt, or you did something like that. But then they log in and they say, okay, well, let's take a look. Let's see how this is going. And you've got your budget tool, you got your goals up, you've got all those wonderful. I will absolutely highlight the fact that Right Capital's ability to give those forms, those tax forms and projections, and tie that together speaks the language of accountants. So they get these questions, and a lot of them have very high powered tax advisory kind of software capability, but this streamlines that in a really unique kind of way, and it updates real time. So, again, we always say, don't try to swallow the ocean, just get started. And I will, my last point is to highlight how wonderful Right Capital's assistance is. So for a lot of accountants that have their high-powered tax advisory software, it's usually an email or a call. We'll get back to you within 24 or 48 hours. That's usually not a great situation. Right Capital is within 2 minutes. And we've had a fantastic experience in our accounting firms, as well as they just start to get started, because setting a time, getting training, all of that is a good thing to do. But a lot of accountants don't have time. And so when they're on the fly and they're starting to deal with these things, that chat function, and they can see what you're actually looking at and address it kind of immediately, has been a game changer. And really, and most of the time when accounting firms have done that, or ourselves, it usually highlights, wow, this is another functionality I didn't even know this thing had, and it's going to be wonderful. So, again, Ted, it is absolutely wonderful to have you on. We've had you on before. We're looking forward to having you on in the future. We're excited about all the stuff that you just highlighted that's new since the last time you guys were on, and all of the new updates that are coming down the road. And then, obviously want to send our appreciation to you and the Right Capital team and all that you all do for us here at Arrowroot, and especially all of our accounting firm partners.
Excellent. No, thank you. We really appreciate the opportunity. Love the chance to talk with you and your folks. Our end goal is just to help people do more planning. And we think there's a lot of opportunity on all sides of the table, not just in the investment space. So again, thank you for the opportunity to talk, and looking forward to doing many of these going down the road.
Absolutely. And for anybody that's listening, you can go to rightcapital.com. You can schedule a demo. They're excellent at being able to do that. As Ted mentioned earlier, we work with accountants about the best practices to incorporate it into an accounting firm practice. So you can always reach out to AFO Wealth Management Forward, and we're happy to guide you through that as well. But I really tell everybody, check it out, see how you can start to use it, because it is a really wonderful tool.
Excellent.
Great. Thanks so much, Ted. You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.